All right. So, hello everybody. I hope that you can hear me. Please just let me know in the chat if I'm getting through. I still haven't figured out this. Thought I had it set up at a scheduled time, but then I couldn't figure out exactly how that works. So it may be that people are waiting on some other platform. But in any case, I'll just start off gabbing, and if you can hear me, just let me know. And also if you have any specific ideas, questions, comments to make for these times, and especially for this meditation journey today, just give me a signal. So hey, Stephanie, so great, wonderful, glad you can hear. So it may be that people are waiting by a different channel and will eventually figure it out. But we could continue on this channel and until I figure all this out. So in the future, I might just, rather than trying to pre-schedule it, just go live directly. So we're going through some very interesting times, and I think all of us are experiencing that. We're experiencing this roller coaster of energy on the planet right now. And particularly in the last few days, if you're in the United States and are linked with what's going on with the election drama, but also anywhere else in the world, because I think what's happening in the United States right now is affecting everybody. Because it's not just an election between two people or two parties that's local to one country. We're talking about policies and decisions that are made that affect the entire planet. And what I also feel very strongly is that we're not just dealing with local or national policies that have to do with one party or the other party, but it's something that has to do with our ability at this time as a human species to remain in a state of freedom and sovereignty. What we are confronting right now is not just these local conflicts and battles. We are confronting what's known as the deep state, which is this very small but highly organized and powerful group of people who own the banking systems, who own the military industrial complex, pharmaceutical industries, political systems, and the media, and have the ability to, if they choose, control how humanity thinks, functions, behaves, and believes. And unfortunately, the system has gone sort of out of hand. And we are dealing with the excesses of a globalist system that wishes at this time to create a slave society across the world. So taking away human rights, personal freedoms, political governance. So it's really about it's not about a government by the people, for the people, of the people anymore in any country. It's a government that's by the elite, for the elite, pretending to be of the people. Elections don't work. And what's been happening in the United States is that there's been an exposure of this electoral fraud, which is taking the entire country by storm. It's taking the entire world by storm. And details are now emerging, and it's creating, huge waves. across the world, and the media still tries to downplay it and suppress it, and especially the social media through the you know um, giants such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, who are censoring and suppressing. Regardless, much of this information is coming out, and it needs to come out, and it's time. And what's happening is that there seems to be a well poised political drama going on between the Republican and Democratic parties, focused around um, electoral fraud and focused around January 6th, when the electors for the Electoral College were supposed to certify their votes. Now, what happens is that if there are questions in any given state, if this was accurate or legal or fraudulent, they can contest those votes. And there were dueling, so-called dueling electors in at least 7, 8 um, electoral battleground states, which contested, were planning to contest the votes. And what happened is that there seemed to be a political coup of some kind, and within a matter of a few hours, those were all disregarded, and Joe Biden was certified as the next president. Now, whether or not this actually happens, and what that means for the Constitution of the United States, and what that means for um, electoral freedom in the world, is is a good question. Um, the Trump administration still is committed to proving that there has been electoral fraud, and therefore that the results are illegal and not binding. And let's see what happens. I think there's enough support, enough awareness right now that there's certainly a possibility that they can succeed. But for many people who are putting their hopes um, in a certain procedure, there's a great deal of despondency, a sense of betrayal, confusion, and fear. It's like, what's going to happen next? Are we going to be able to pull this through? Is Trump going to be able to pull through? Um, and it's also clear to me that there's a large group of people around the world who perceive Trump as, you know, a buffoon and worse, you know, sociopathic, psychopathic, racist, narcissistic, um, egocentric buffoon. And those, you hear those words over and over again enough times, and you believe it. You hear it from the mainstream media. You hear it as part of the propaganda arm of the deep state. And then the question is, why is this perception being created? Is that because what Trump is trying to do is, by his um, commitment to drain the swamp, is too threatening for the deep state? And that's the question that many people have, that we are dealing with right now. It seems that there's a certain element within the US military that's very supportive of what Trump is up to, and using their intelligence networks to do what is necessary, including um, what's known as the um, what's the name? It's a technology. It's the maybe the yellow cube, or the, I forget exactly, but it's a technology for being able to look into other dimensions of time, look into the future, and co-create using the power of our collective consciousness. So This takes us back to what happened December 21st with the magic box being activated in the great ceremony at Tuluru, where collectively, yes, thank you, Stephanie, the looking glass, um, where collectively we have the choice now to determine our own future based in truth, freedom, justice, uh, harmony, and co creation, based in our willingness to be part of an earth community, a Gaia community that is not limited to national boundaries or personal um, perceptions, but includes um, every single species on this planet and extending beyond into galactic um, realms. So we are actually, what's happening this particular time is a choice point where we have the potential to move into um, achieving our maturity as a human species, moving from adolescence into adulthood. It's not easy. I suspect that this is going to be a difficult time in many ways. I suspect there could be uh, conflicts, ideological as well as perhaps physical. I suspect there will be a lot of name calling, a lot of fear, a lot of violence, a lot of um, duplicity, uh, especially during the next 10 days between now and the moment of the presidential inauguration. So we need to stay centered within our own hearts, in our connection with Gaia, in our trust in the universe, in our trust with each other, and the fact that as we achieve this state of critical mass, we actually have um, abilities and choices that we did not have before. And together, even with meditations such as this, we can exercise those choices in ways that can be quite effective. So, thank you, Stephanie. I feel it's imperative we all hold the highest timeline. Exactly. So, the highest timeline, when we're talking timelines, we're also talking vibrational frequencies or dimensional possibilities. We're talking about a collective choice or decision that we're making as a human species. So if we're stuck in fear and duality, in conflicts of right and wrong, and domination and suppression, that creates a resonance field which creates its own timeline. And this timeline would mirror those states. So this could include war, it could include um, massive earth changes, um, it could include famine, it could include food shortages, disease, um, a lot of death and destruction, because this is a choice point that we're at right now. What timeline are we choosing? The other timeline has to do with what some people call the fifth dimensional unified frequency, where we have bypassed this tree of knowledge and moved into the tree of life. We have learned how to connect with the one spirit that moves through all things, and offer our allegiance to this unified light, offer our allegiance to Gaia as a spirit of the earth, who has her own plan, her own divinity, her own choices, and her own purpose for this time. And so, holding the highest timeline is to simply surrender to these forces, to these unified forces, to Gaia, to the universe, offering our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our will for these higher vibrational fields to come through in service to Gaia, in service to humanity, in service to the collective. And I do feel like this is what we are doing, this is what we're collectively choosing. And whatever is going on politically, whatever the drama seems to be, is part of this um, movement. Um, so I feel positive, even though it would be very easy right now to go into despair. I don't apologize for being a supporter of MAGA. I'm not American. I don't belong to the two-party system, but I can see the big picture. I can see that Donald Trump appearing as he does from nowhere, supported by a certain powerful group of individuals within the US military who are sworn to uphold the Constitution. It's a special force within the Marine Corps um, that was activated through a secret executive order passed by Dwight Eisenhower, reactivated at this time by Donald Trump. Um, Donald Trump has been tasked by this group within the U.S. military and volunteered to be the wedge for this work that needed to be done. Not an easy task by any means. When he talks about draining the swamp, it's a huge task, an almost impossible task for any one person to attempt on their own. And this is a time just because of the collective energies that are rising, because of the awakening that's happening, because more and more people are becoming aware of what's going on, and because of the strength of the United States military and patriots that are connected with this, that there is enough of a critical mass now to address this issue, to finally take down the deep state once and for all. Not just in the United States. The deep states, the tentacles extend out around the world. It's not just one political system, not one government. It's around the world. It's in political, economic, banking, financial, pharmaceutical, agribusiness, and religious systems around the world. And it's time that we wake up to this and make a strong choice about whether or not we agree to participate in this. Many of you are aware of what's happening with child trafficking, with satanic abuse, these things that are so evil, that have been allowed for so long, and that are now being curtailed. This is part of the Trump administration, what they have been doing, which, if nothing else, I would be so much in gratitude and awe. And there's been so many other things that do not get in the mainstream media, which have been very important in terms of taking down the Federal Reserve System, in terms of splintering the CIA, as John F. Kennedy had promised to do, in terms of a new financial system, which some are seeing, known as NESARA or GESARA, which is the global component of this. So this is what we are looking at. We're looking at a transformation of human culture. We're talking about something much bigger than national politics. And this is a chance that we're given. Um, and so to think, to imagine that we might lose this chance is overwhelmingly depressing for any of us, including myself. I do believe, however, from all the research I've done, from listening to people like um, Simon Parks and Charlie Ward and um, Juan O'Savin and others, that yes, there's a plan, there's something going on beyond this. And there's some talk about Q um, or the QAnons. Obviously, there's a lot of people who look at this as a conspiracy theory, as a right wing fascist cult. And, this is all part of an attempt from the mainstream media, in my opinion, to discredit something that they feel threatened by. And I've lost many friends in trying to uphold my own convictions around this, around how I perceive what's going on in national politics in the United States, how I perceive Donald Trump, how I perceive Q, how I perceive this awakening process. I do not believe that we can divorce spiritual truths from political truths. We cannot um, get so locked up in a belief system that we lose touch with our ability to discern that comes from the heart and that comes from the higher mind, from the level of the mind that is not locked into duality, but perceives things directly through that intuitive sense. Um, yeah, so let me just look at some of these comments here. Thank you, guys. Um, Stephanie says, when you can read energy, you see truth. Absolutely. Bellatrix, I'm glad you don't apologize, Kira. None of us should, and I'm so glad we have this now this global movement. Yeah, I hear you, Bellatrix. There's been many of us who feel like we need to be fair to be able to listen to all sides or both sides and to not react, not project. And then what happens is because the other side has different values, we end up feeling taken down or discredited or um, betrayed or insulted or whatever. It's not easy. And yet, it's like speaking for myself, I want to be able to hold a wider perspective that everyone can relate to. That's not bipartisan. That's not uh, locked into right and wrong, good and bad. That holds a perspective that can include what all of humanity is moving towards. And this is what freedom, personal freedoms, national freedoms, sovereignty, and truth. But because there's so many um, ideas and beliefs around this, we get into these very difficult games. Um, and yes, as you're saying, Bellatrix, I've come from a place of feeling apologetic, where the moment I say something, I'm also looking at what another person might perceive from those statements, and trying to moderate what I say so as not to trample over someone else's beliefs or freedoms. And there comes a time when we just have to speak our truth, not caring whether someone likes us or not caring whether someone agrees or not, just because it's truth. It's our truth. And to the extent that we can discern, it's also part of our awakening. AK says, so ironic yet perfect that Gaia Sophia should choose Trump as her figurehead at this time, her Kali mode. Yes. I've heard that Donald Trump is a reincarnation of General Patton, who was the nemesis of Rommel during World War II. And that doesn't surprise me if it's true. I mean, he's a hard headed, you know, very aggressive general. He's not going to concede, he's not going to step back when he believes that he is right. And when he perceives that people are supporting him, there's a compulsion, there's a obligation that he feels to support them right back. And that's what we have in Donald Trump right now. And it's the absolute perfect person to do what's needed to take down the deep state. You know, we couldn't have. I'm trying to think of someone who's, gentle and, well, someone like Bernie Sanders um, do what Donald Trump is doing. Um, so yeah, so this is a chance we're given. Uh, we don't have to agree with everything that Donald Trump stands for. We do need to support what he's supporting, which is the takedown of the deep state, and because this is something we all can get behind. If we don't do this now, we don't have a culture, we don't have um, national sovereignty, we don't have personal freedoms, we don't have financial freedoms, we don't have the ability to travel, to do what we wish to do, to think how we choose to think. We all get taken into re-education programs, much like in 1984. So this is serious business, and we can't downplay this. At the same time, we also need to understand that this is something that is bigger than ourselves, and that we are entering a time where there's a positive collective um, awakening, a critical mass that we are reaching. Beyond dualism. By the way, if you are not aware, if anyone watching this is not aware, there's a YouTube channel, Beyond Duality, where my co-host David Sherjan and I have been doing weekly podcasts on some of these kinds of themes. So please check it out. It's live 7 p.m. Mountain Time on Tuesdays, but it's archived for anyone who wants to check it out later. So what I'd like to do in our meditation today is to send some positive energy towards this general, Donald Trump, the commander in chief of the US Armed Forces, the president of that nation, someone who has, on behalf of a nation, been standing up against a very difficult situation for the last 4 years, and that's come to a head right now. This is not something that any one person can do on their own. And if we value our freedoms, if there's any truth in any of this, we offer to give him or offer our unified um, gratitude, energy, and love, which we are holding as part of this unified, universal consciousness that's stepping into um, birth at this time. So, so let's do that. We just, many of you who have been attending my meditations. We've been doing these Inca practices, opening doorways between the worlds, linking up with the soul of Gaia, with the soul of the universe, connecting with the heart of the earth, becoming a bridge between earth and sky, and then just keeping our hearts open as we transmute the density of uh, um, fragmented human consciousness, transmuting it into the spirit of awakening and life, to take our place as a species that can do Earth proud. At the moment, we haven't fulfilled our role on this Earth, and she's waiting for us to do so. So, as we open up our hearts to the heart of Gaia, to the heart of the universe, as we open ourselves to these higher levels of mind and consciousness, then we become vehicles through which the universal light can flow and do what is necessary. So we're just holding that intention now to support what's needed in terms of freedom, in terms of human awakening, in terms of sovereignty. If you believe that Donald Trump holds a key in making this happen, then we just focus our intention and our energy towards him and the people behind him and with him. So let's just open the doorways between the worlds, bring that unified light in through our hearts, make a connection between earth and sky, and then beam that out. And we'll do this together for a few moments. And while we hold this space together, I'd like to just share a dream that I had 2 months ago. This was just before the election of November 3rd. And in the dream, I happened to be in Turkey, and I was walking by this ancient amphitheater, and I noticed a group of people there, and Donald Trump was there, along with Melania and some Secret Service agents, and Trump was speaking. Not a large crowd of people, but he was in the middle of the amphitheater and talking about what was going on in the world. And I came closer, and I was noticed by the secret agent who invited me to come closer, join in, and I did. And at the end of his talk, people were coming up to him and thanking him, shaking his hand, and so I plucked up some courage and came up, and then instead of shaking his hand, we just went into the spontaneous hug, and we started talking, and immediately it was like meeting an old soul friend, someone who had a calling, a spiritual calling, was evolved, knew what was going on in this world, and so we just ended up having this conversation as we walked. To this whole time, the Secret Service was trying to get us out into the next place, and he invited me to come join them. And so I was on the plane with them, Donald, Melania, the Secret Service people. We ended up going to Germany. and then from there to Barcelona, and all of this was happening, and somehow it's like I felt like I was part of this whole unfoldment. The last part of the dream I was in, I think it was in Texas, and I was staying with them. They had invited me to stay at the hotel or whatever it was they were staying at. I had my own room, and it was adjacent to theirs. And then at some point in the middle of the night, we ended up having this conversation about all the stuff. And it was, just like talking with someone in your own dormitory in college. And we had breakfast together afterwards. And the point of all this is that I felt like I could see his soul and trust that. That I felt like, here's someone who's on this earth to accomplish a mission against terrible odds, who has the courage to do this if we give him our support and our love. I woke up from the dream just feeling this tremendous love and respect for Donald as well as Melania, for what they do, what they represent. Um, and so when people talk about, the way the mass media tends to paint him as an egocentric, narcissistic, racist, xenophonic, whatever that means, sociopathic buffoon. It's not my experience of him at all. Um, this is someone I can get behind, someone I can give my life for. Because what he represents is what I represent, what many of us here represent today, which is being in service to Gaia, being available for this great awakening. Participating in this great work of unity in a way that can bypass World War III, bypass the violence, the bloodshed, the fear, the hatred that could otherwise come to pass. We have these choices. So, Stephanie, when you talked about choosing the highest of the timelines, there is a timeline where we go through all this chaos and fear and violence and breakdown in order to accomplish where we need to go. But there's also a timeline where we can accomplish this smoothly and beautifully together. And that's the vision I hold. That's what we're holding together as we connect our unified energies. And at this time, we also send out this vibration of trust, of support and unity to all those across the world who are feeling confused, betrayed, upset, angry, hurt, afraid. It's like an initiation we have to go through. It's like part of what we need to go through to grow up, to trust ourselves, to trust something beyond ourselves, to trust each other, to trust the universe. Terry Lee says, I happen to be awake. Greetings from Calgary. I've enjoyed watching you and David on Above Duality. Thank you. Happy to jump on now. Welcome. Yeah, so what I'd like to say is that, we will continue doing these meditations. There's a suggestion that we do it maybe just a little bit earlier at 9 o'clock European time on Saturdays, and that's fine with me. So every Saturday, 9 o'clock European time, which comes to 8 o'clock GMT. Uh, so for those of you in North America, it may be very early morning or late night. But if you'd like to join, just connect. Please do so. Just lay in your beds with your earphones on and connect. Or afterwards. Um, but we're still holding the same field. And what I look for in these meditations is for people who are in their own sovereignty and in their own hearts. It's not about creating more division based on belief systems, but simply being available to life, to love, to spirit, and to be fully open to the spirit of Gaia. So please join 9 a.m. Um, Saturdays, Central European time, and whatever that translates to. And maybe on special occasions, you might just, create special meditations. So this is on my YouTube channel, Kiara Windrider. And unless I can figure out how to do this as a pre-recorded thing, we'll just do it live. So I'll just sign in at that time and just find the live meditation. So yeah, Diane says in the US it would be 3 a.m. East Coast. Yes, and that means midnight Pacific Coast. Ah, Lewis from Mount Shasta. It's 1:45 here. I was led to tune into your sharing of your dream. I listened with the respect one has for an old friend. Thank you, Lewis. Means a lot to me. And Armenia says, I try to keep my light shining and my love flowing. Thank you so much for being here. And Stephanie, I'm in BC, 147. Great. Yeah. Lewis, I do not trust Donald Trump. There's too much division. Yeah, I mean, there is much to be said from both sides of this. And what I would urge people at this time during these meditations is to not so much look at where we place our, where we place our minds in all of this, because whatever beliefs we might have, there's an intention that we carry that's bigger than the belief, stronger than the beliefs. And if our intention is for peace, harmony, beauty, love, truth, that's important. And that's what then is able to bring all these opposing belief systems together into a state of unity. So we don't need to argue and try and convince someone um, into being right or being wrong. It's like, okay, trusting that the same spirit moves through all of us, uses imperfect tools. All of us are imperfect tools. Uses us all for what we can do at this time. Okay, I don't want to belabor that. All right, then. So I'll end the stream for now. So thank you for joining me here. Thank you for your collective intentions here. Let's go make the world a better place. Gaia Luminous. Blessings and love.